Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Elemental Companion podcast. Today we're here with Gia, and she's honestly lovely, and I'm not really going to waffle on too terribly much here. Hi Gia, what you up to? What's new?
Hey,
What would you like to talk
hi.
about?
Well, first, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much,
Thanks
and
for
for
coming.
inviting me. I'm excited. I'm excited to find out about the Elemental Companion, um,
Yeah, it's going to be
because
fun.
it kind of reminds me of, I can't remember the movie, but with Vin Diesel where there's a movie there's an elemental. They call them elementals in the movie, and very fantastic. I think it's Judi Dench actually plays.
Oh,
It's
that's
a
going to be worth
British
watching then.
actress. Yeah,
I think
it's the sequel after Pitch Black. Can't
Oh,
remember.
yes. I know the
Yeah,
one
you
you
know
mean.
what I'm talking.
It's really good.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I think of when I think of her in a very very cool character. So I'm excited about that. I'm having a great time right now, even though it's such a strange year. And I mean, right now I'm just looking outside because it's a beautiful day, and uh, I've had to pivot this year, and just like everybody else, I guess. And I'm really enjoying it. I've joined a creative partnership with a gentleman, and we are investing in other businesses to use our marketing skills to help them grow. And we're
That's really
using very
cool.
creative ways to actually make it happen because there's a lot of people who don't have the sales and they don't have the revenues. So, or they do have the revenues, but we help them increase those revenues. So it's a lot of fun. We've been meeting a lot of nice people, people who own businesses and have done well, and so it's kind of taken all of my skills and put them at a different level for me. And it's a lot more, it's a lot more fun, I guess, than just running an agency or a publishing house on my own.
I
And
believe that.
yeah, I mean, if you've ever, the solopreneur ideal is great, and working from home is great. But it's one thing when you voluntarily work from home, but
Yeah,
when you
no
have
kidding.
to, then it's a totally different thing. It's kind of brings up that freedom seeking part of me that really is like, well, I want to be working with other people now. So
Yep, I hear
thank
that one.
goodness for things like technology like this, and where we can have video meetings and
Oh, I know.
interact with people.
Could you
No, it's
imagine
been a
trying to do
lifesaver.
this here without video calling? Because it's not that old in technology, really. I can still remember
Yeah.
when, Skype was new, and now
Yeah,
nobody really uses Skype anymore. But
I
yeah, it
know. Isn't
wasn't
that
that
funny?
long ago.
No, I think
Crazy.
I first used Skype in the by probably 97,
Yeah,
96, 97. It was
about.
very laggy. You couldn't really make anything happen.
I remember how laggy it was. Oh, and do you remember
Yeah,
the small pauses you used to get sometimes as well? Which
yeah,
wasn't quite the lag because it wasn't really lagging, but it took a minute to catch up every now and then.
yeah,
Fun.
yeah. So I'm glad that I'm very, very glad. I mean, like you're in Scotland and I'm in Michigan in the United States, and we're making this happen. And there's this technology. I'm not familiar with this one, but
This
it's working
one's
really well.
Jitsi. Yeah, I mean, I'd been hearing enough things about Zoom for the last while, and I've had friends where, their account got hacked and there was money, large sums of it taken and then given back and what have you. So I went, okay, I see the writing on the wall here. We're just going to go play with Jitsi for a little while. And it's been doing reasonably well, I think. Like, it's
Yeah.
not as fleshed out as Zoom, I would say, but it works. You click it, it
Yeah.
does things.
Hey, I can see you. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
can hear
we
you.
can
So
count this. Seeing and
yeah.
hearing. Good enough, right?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
But that's about, I mean, there's so much going on in my life. I don't even know if I could encapsulate it all. Just things are good. Um, my mom moved in with us, so about 10 last December, and
Right.
she's doing a lot better because she was not doing very well. And we've got it. I mean, life is good. My daughter just got married.
Oh, of course. I know. I remember this. Congratulations
Yeah,
again to her.
thank you. So it's just been, things have been moving along nicely, and um, business is starting to go well, and uh, just all kinds of things are
Yeah.
good. And
I
I
mean,
feel good about life. That's
that's really the main thing.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And here
Okay.
we are.
We are here. Yes. And we do have two horrible, horrible questions to ask you. Are
Okay.
you ready to get started?
Yes, I'm very excited to be able to answer a horrible question.
They're the worst. I have to, like, I've done them myself a few times and they don't stop being horrible ever.
Oh, okay.
So,
So no pressure.
oh, none whatsoever. Answer it any way you like. It's fine. All right. So, question one then. When you're procrastinating about selling or moving your business forward, what is the voice in your head saying to you?
You can't do that.
Okay. Why?
Um, because you don't know how to do that. You're not good enough to do that. Everyone else knows how to do that except for you. Basically. I mean, I think iterations of that. Oh, my microphone is noisy.
It's fine.
Terribly,
Ignore that. I can
terribly
hear you
sorry.
okay.
Oh, it just gave me a notice. That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
it out loud. Um, Probably because I was moving around and making noise. But
Not a big deal.
anyway, iterations, variations of that sentiment that I just don't have the skill level, that I'm not capable.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That was pretty clear cut, so I'm not going to ask you extra ones for that one. When you are feeling that way, how do you resolve that so that you can move forward?
How do I resolve that? Um, if I'm in that space, I haven't been there in a while
Mm-hmm.
because I've done a lot of work around that. But if I'm in that space, then I probably need to stop whatever I'm doing and
Right.
go and regroup. I need to think about something else. I need to go to sleep, go
Mm.
and take a nap, kind of reset, meditate,
When you're,
remember who I am, remember my greatness, get really, you know,
yeah, back in
get into that
your
part of who I am
settled,
and
calm
feel,
space.
yeah, open up my chakras, make sure everything's flowing.
Fair enough.
And I would say, have a glass of wine or do a shot, but I don't actually do that. But
I
it
mean,
just popped into my head like, boy, that wouldn't work. Wouldn't work.
no,
Liquid courage is not really
it
doesn't
doesn't
really
work quite the way we ever want it to. No.
not like in the movies where they make
No,
it
and
seem
they like to
very
hype it up in the movies quite a bit, I
yeah,
think. But
yeah.
I don't
But
know very
no,
many people it works that way for.
so I mean that's what I would do. I mean and that's what I do if
Hmm.
if I run across that kind of state of mind. And like I said, I haven't had that in a long time, probably because I don't really drink a lot anymore. And I used to have the social cocktail, and I think it made a big difference. Who knew?
Yeah,
But I
like
found, like nutritionally, I found out there were some things that were bothering me that had
I
an impact
gotcha.
emotionally. So getting those things out of the picture, and it was like, oh, I feel good most of the time.
Yeah, it's funny how that can happen actually. I think the thing with alcohol, leaving aside any nutritional stuff, because that definitely has its own impact, but
Yeah.
it amplifies whatever's already there. So if there's something that you're avoiding or trying not to feel, well, hello, the
Yeah.
alcohol is going to bring that out right away.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And
so
it's a
yeah,
depressant, so it's not going to really. It's going to go and do
no,
the
it's
opposite
not
of
gonna
what you
lift
think.
you up the way you want it to. It's just gonna completely
It's
mess
going to
with
drop
you.
in hard.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's kind of there's a whole lot of stuff has actually, cleared up for me this year.
Yeah,
Emotionally, psychologically, everything has been a kind of an awakening and um, a culmination of all the work that I've done for the last, I don't know how many years, 15, 20,
yeah,
you
that's
know.
really good though. And like, it's funny actually that you mention both alcohol and nutrition. I'm gonna have a small side story here because it's fun and I like telling it. I had a mystery allergy come up a couple of years ago, which would
Yeah.
basically break me out in all over hives. It was ridiculous. Could not
Oh
figure
my
out what
God.
it was. And like at the time, I was especially prone to migraines as well. So went a bit back and forward. You did the usual things of, was it dairy? No, no, it's not dairy. Gluten? Nah. Wheat? No, no, not that. Not eggs. None of the obvious things. And then for a little while, I was like, oh, well, maybe it's just stress, you know. So we did a lot of resetting and meditating and stuff. And like I stopped seeing my parents too, and that helped a lot with the migraines, but not with the itch and the hives. So there was still an
That can make a
allergy.
difference.
It made a huge difference. Anyway, there was
Yeah.
still the allergy to handle, and eventually figured out that it was potato, which means that
Really.
not just potato, everything derived from potato, like to the point
Um,
where once I cut potato itself out and like
uh,
did the full reset thing, I can't have table salt now because they put dextrose in it, and that's potato. It's bad.
oh,
So
yeah.
anyway, I
Sea
had been
salt
good.
is better anyway.
There's so many. I do actually have
Uh,
sea salt now. It's delicious.
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I was really good for a number of months. Everything more or less went away. We're still finding all the hidden potato because it's not a main allergy, so they don't put it on any of the labels, right? But getting
Yeah.
better at it. Haven't really had a migraine since that stopped. Then I had about a month ago now. I just had some of the wicked alcohol stuff because I took an ocean, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I forgot it was vodka. Do we remember what vodka's made out of? Because I do.
Yeah.
I was so sick.
Yeah.
It
Oh
was.
yeah. I'm totally the same way because it's also corn. For me, I mean, we had to cut out corn and nuts,
Mhm.
all the nuts and the
Oh
corn
God.
and the legumes. And those were the three big ones that were like, I don't mind legumes and I don't really mind corn, but corn is in everything,
It
especially over
is.
here.
It gets
With high fructose
everywhere.
corn syrup. Not that I eat a lot of sweets, but still, that's and nuts. Nuts I ate every day, and I love
Mhm.
nuts. But apparently, they can really harm the gut. So,
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm
whatever.
Scottish. We like
Yeah.
love our potato. And the part of
Oh
me
yeah.
that isn't Scottish is Irish, and they love potato even more. So
Well, I
that
have
was
some of both
an
in me
adjustment.
also, Scottish and Irish,
Mhm.
and I love potato. I think that would be difficult for me because
It's
I really
hard going. So yeah, I mean, I've come to a form of peace with it now. And like, if I have it by chance now, it's actually kind of gross, which is telling. But that was not an easy transition. But it just reminded
ah,
me when you were mentioning alcohol, because yeah,
yeah,
I accidentally had vodka.
that'll throw you.
It did. I had a migraine the entire next day, and I hadn't really
Oh
drunk that much, so it
yeah,
wasn't hangover migraine. It was you had potato.
yeah. Ooh, well, you can tell. Well, I'm glad you
Yeah,
found out though. I mean, that's the big. You'll
it
have
took
to
a
stick
while.
to some good scotch.
Yeah, or gin's fine. I can have gin. They have some
Oh,
lovely
okay.
flavored gins now. So
Yeah.
it's fine. I'm not suffering in my alcohol choices.
No.
Not like I indulge that often anyway, but it did just make me laugh though.
Well, it's funny when you do like a, oh no, what did I do?
So good
I
for
do
mom.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
that
awesome.
was that little story. But okay. Would you like your results?
Oh, sure. Yes. From 2 questions, you have results. Okay. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
There's only 2. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that your elemental companion that you would need is a light elemental. Now I'm going to explain how we got to there. Because you, my dear, are really quite centered and none of them are grumbling very much at you at all. Like, I can tell that it's the light one because of what your complaints were, but
Right.
you've also managed to put in a lot of coping from the same elemental. Because, okay, the way it works is the elemental I give you is the exact opposite of the one that's out of balance having problems, right? So in your case, the one that's a little niggly sometimes is your dark elemental. Now, what the dark elemental generally represents when it's healthy is feeling solidly grounded in who you are as a person and what your worth is, what you're here to do. And you don't really need external validation for any of that either. They're just like, yeah, no, this is me and I am awesome. That's basically what a healthy dark elemental will do. When they're a little bit unhappy and niggly, that's when you start to get the, oh, well, am I good enough to be doing this?
Right.
Can I learn this thing? Do I have, it's your imposter syndrome, right?
Yes.
Is where that comes from. So insofar as you have an unhappy one, it's there. But the interesting thing is when I asked how you resolve that, what you're actually doing is you're using dark elemental strategies to handle your dark elemental, which is fascinating and quite hard to do. And I'm very impressed, by the way, but I'll explain how this is working. Because normally, if you have a niggly dark elemental, I say, okay, focus on your light elemental. And they'll basically say, hey, look, we have all this external proof that we know what we're doing. You can do the things. What you have is awesome. Let's go prove it. Let's just do stuff and start, right? Is very much where they're coming from. But what you've done with your resolving things is you've basically got the one true turn it off and on again sorted. Like mapping and coming back, amazing. Meditation, recentering, getting yourself grounded. Those are all things that you would do with a dark elemental, but not usually while they're kicking up a fuss. So that's awesome. Suitably impressed over here. And just like, oh, fantastic. That's why I didn't have very many follow-up questions, to be fair, because straight up in question 1, you told me what the problem was and then resolved it in the second one. And I'm like, oh, well, this is nice. So, yeah, theoretically, you have a light elemental, which again would sit and go, let's just do the things. Yay, go team, cheerleader, pom poms. But you're doing just fine anyway.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm doing just fine, and it's a pretty cool place to be. I have to tell you. It just kind of all, like I said, everything kind of clicked into place. I guess. I couldn't tell you when, but over the last year, because I've done a lot of work to get, I guess, to address what you would call the dark elemental.
Yeah,
and the worry, the fear, the procrastination, the doubt, that kind of thing. And for the longest time, it was my goal. That was my goal was to be able to wake up feeling good, to wake up happy, and just to be like even neutral. I was just like, at first it was just neutral, and then I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know there was a choice to be happy. when I first
Mhm.
started this journey. I was like, I think I picked up a book called Living with Joy, or
Ah,
someone introducing it's back a long time ago, a very long time, like 30 years ago. And I just had no clue that that was a possibility before that.
well, yeah, because if you've never really done it, how would you know, right?
Right. I didn't know other people had it either. I remember one lady I met, she was like, I remember being impressed because she seemed happy.
Yeah.
She didn't complain about anything. So yeah, it was like it's been a goal, and I've been stepping up that ladder or that whatever for quite a long time, and that's now I'm on the other side of it,
Hmm.
and it's a really cool feeling to feel good about myself and to be making strides in the right direction I want to go, that kind of thing. So yeah, thank you. And I love the idea of the dark and light elemental
Hmm.
because they have to complement each other.
Oh, they do. The way my system works is I've got 6 elementals in total. And it's been through a few iterations while I've tested it and poked and prodded at people. But what I've come to realize is that everybody has all of them. So like you have your
Wow.
traditional four and then light and dark, and they all interact with each other. What I'm talking about when I'm doing the companion thing is they're natural pairs. So you've got like your earth and air, your fire and water, your light and dark. But actually, I've seen them like join forces in other ways too, and it's really fascinating because, like, as an example, you've got what will happen sometimes is an earth elemental and a dark elemental will team up if they're both unhappy. And then that's like your
Oh,
structure and your self worth at the same time going,
yeah.
no, you have none of this. And then to counteract that, you get the air elemental and the light elemental, which visually it pleases me every time because the air elemental is basically a little fluffy cloud. Right? I have pictures of all these. It's a little fluffy cloud. And the light elemental's the sun. Dark elemental, by the way, is the moon, but we'll get to that. Anyway, so you've
Oh,
got like this sunny sky that comes along and goes, hey, silly, go talk to people. You're doing great. Off you go. So, it's quite interesting too. And yeah, like the way they interact endlessly fascinating to me. You can draw whatever pair and they will do something together. And then it's just
yeah.
figuring out what it is. But
I can imagine that. I mean, it's very cool. I like it, and I think it'll do well. I think it can really help somebody, especially if you have visuals like that, because um, what is so the dark is the moon.
yeah, the dark's the moon, just with a small crescent, but it's
Yeah.
very cute. They're all really cute, actually. I have 2 that I've done properly and colored, and then the other 4 I'm like working on because they've been drawn, but they need to be digitized and put up. So I'm like over here going, these are so cute. I can't wait to show everybody all of them when they appear finally. But right now, the only ones I've actually finished are the light and dark ones. But they're
Well,
pretty.
they go well together. I mean, but they are opposites, right?
Yep,
And the interesting thing about the sun and the moon is that sometimes they can be out during the daytime together.
they sure can.
I love it when there's a daytime moon. Um,
Oh,
I,
same.
I
Like,
don't know if it's called something, but I do like that.
I don't know if it has a specific name, but it is really nice. My kid has been noticing the moon when it's out in the daylight since he was what, 2? I want to say 2, because
Yeah,
like we would go on walks and I'd be like, "Oh, look the moon," and he'd go, oh, "Moon." It's great.
but he's adorable.
It's great. Like he'll notice it
Yeah,
half the time before me now. It's fantastic.
I love them. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very happy for you, but um, not no buts. It's just I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I have grandkids. So you visit for a while, and then you leave. Or
Mm-hmm.
they leave. But
And
um,
then you blink and they're suddenly older, and you go, "What the hell?" So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
my grandson is teaching me video games now, and he's
that's
making
awesome.
plans. And then he says things like, Nana, now pay attention because I've already told you this once.
It's funny how they pick up these little phrases, though. It's like,
Yeah, I know. He's like, okay, properly chastised. Thank you. I know
but
this
I
is your
mean,
first day. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to stay alive in this video game.
I mean, so one of the ones my kid will do sometimes is, especially when I'm not actually paying full attention, because they know, right?
Yes,
They'll
they
say
do.
something, and I won't quite hear it, and then they'll sort of go, "Were you even listening to me?" And I'll be like, "No, sorry, please
Frustrated.
repeat."
Oh, they're so real,
Yeah, they
the
are.
kids.
And like, not much in the way of filter when they're little either.
No,
It's fantastic.
no filters, and they're present usually. I mean, whatever they're in, they're fully in. And then you can really see when they're in their different elementals, I bet.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, whatever they're
it's a lot of fun.
Tell me about the other elementals. Tell me, because
Sure.
so light and dark is kind of obvious and it's light
Yeah,
and darkness.
they're basically, the way I describe light and dark is it's your self worth meter. You've got your internal, intrinsic self worth, and then your external proof of that worth is how they tend to work together. You've got earth and air. That pair very much is to do with, well, on the earth side, it's your like solid foundations, and I like to think of it as fertile land in which to grow shit.
Okay,
That's what
yeah,
the
yeah.
earth one does. And then you've got air, who's oh, how do I describe this quite concisely? I have no idea. They're the creative communication ones for, they're looking around for opportunities, starting new ideas, and at their best, they'll, get you talking about things, making connections, brainstorming. Very good at that. At their worst, they'll have you starting like 15 different projects and getting exactly 10% into all of them and going somewhere else. So that's your earth
Yeah,
and
the
air, and they kind
flighty.
of balance each other
Yeah.
out nicely to create things. And then, so that's that one. Then your water and fire is, it's an odd one, and it wasn't super obvious to me how it worked at first. But you have fire, who is very much about drive, ambition, momentum, building on what you already have, right? And
Right.
then you've got water, who is very much about, okay, where do I fit in with everything else? Why am I doing this? Why is it important? So on the water side, you've got like, could be a little drop, and that's important. And it could be like this whole ocean, and the
Yeah.
drop's important within the ocean, for example.
Huh.
So, when water's getting a bit unhappy, it's nothing matters. They can't find the meaning for it. Why are we doing this? Why not do this other thing or this other thing? Nothing makes sense. Is basically water's one.
Right.
And then when fire is having a temper tantrum all of its own, it's like, well, what do you want me to work on? There are too many targets all at once. You want me to go all in on how many things? Pick one. One. So, it's your moving things forward pair that they have a lot of fun together sometimes.
I bet they
So
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
so broadly speaking, those are your natural pairs, as I like to call them. But like I said, they will pair up within themselves as well.
Yeah,
I
I can
think.
imagine that. Are some drawn more to each other than others?
Well, there's complementary pairs that I've noticed and I'm still playing about with. But for example, the air, fire, and light tend to have quite similar worldviews a lot of the time. Um, and so does like dark, water, and earth over here. So those are
Yeah.
two broadly. Then you've got fire and earth will sometimes work together differently.
Huh.
That's where you're looking at, solid foundations combined with momentum. So it can
Uh,
be quite powerful, but they'll sometimes do that. And then you've got air and water will occasionally connect up and just blow up things. Because if you want to visualize that one, you've got basically a hurricane when that happens, or this big storm, right? It's
oh,
really good for clearing the air and clearing out the things that you shouldn't have, but it can also be quite destructive as well. So that's a little fun. Yeah, and then light and dark will honestly pair with any of them.
huh.
They're kind of like that. When light is pairing with someone, it's more external, how it looks out in the world. So, for example, if light was pairing up with, let's pick on water for once, it's very clear in your work and what you're doing what the meaning is and how you fit into the community at large and what makes sense there. Really is that sense of why and to some extent how, but mostly why and who that's fully explored. Whereas if we want to pick on dark for a minute and pair it with fire, for the sake of argument,
Yeah.
what that looks an awful lot like is building momentum and drive and, desire to do something, but from within yourself. So that'll either be desire to improve your life, that's a pretty big one, or it'll be, something in specific that's tripping you up will be identified that way and we'll build on it.
Cool. Wow.
Just like broadly, we're getting into the theory part of it now, though. So.
Well, I was going to say it's a very, but it's well thought out and it fits together well. I mean, it's solid.
Yeah,
So
there's
what made you
been a
come up
lot
with
of
all of this?
I'm still not even sure exactly how that happened because, you'll know I went from being a web designer / developer for like a decade to
Right.
slowly, when I was talking to my clients, realizing that, well, no, actually what I do is I help them with sales. It just so happens I built their website. And then evolving a little from there. But I've also always, played role-playing games or what have you. And I think the elementals were deceptively simple because when I was running the first beta for the game itself at large, I was like, oh, and do you know what else? We could have like an elemental companion to help you with your mindset stuff. That was the genesis of this. And I've
Yeah.
now had like a year and a lot of time to discover how that actually works. And it's easily the most sophisticated part of the whole thing, if we're being totally honest. It's the fun bit. But yeah, I'm not sure entirely where it came from. Just a lot of observation, I think. I'm sort of like that, where I'm not even sure what I'm putting together until a question is asked. And then I'm like, oh, this is how this works. I have data. And then I go, where did I get this data? Who knows? But I have it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's fascinating actually. And it just to me that kind of emergence is powerful and it's meaningful because it did emerge. It
Yeah,
wasn't something, that you set out to, but that all of the things you did set out to do came together
it just
and
sort of built this own thing. It was more like discovering it was there than me really putting it together. I mean,
right.
and I've put a lot of exploration into it since, but the initial idea, I honestly couldn't tell you. I was just literally like, some of these games have companions. What would that look like? Oh, they could be mindset. And that was it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I think that especially in the area of sales, I think that's brilliant to focus on something like that so many people, so many business owners think of a certain way negatively, but then also people in general think of sales in a negative way. And yet, you know, every time you look in the mirror or talk to anybody else, you have to sell something. You have to
It's
sell
a big
your
deal.
idea or anything.
And what I've noticed actually over time and paying attention to it is you can apply elementals to just about anything. It so happens I apply it to business, but
Right.
like for example, a couple of months ago, I got really bored one day, and obviously my house was a mess because I was thinking about it. And I'm like, okay, fine. Which elementals are out of order? And it took me like 5 minutes to figure out what one's mapped to which part of the house. Um, but it can absolutely be done that way. And, you know, I've been tidying ever since like that. And I have noticed in my travels that if I've been neglecting one particular elemental in the tidying and home maintenance area, everything feels horrible and oppressive until I deal with it. And then suddenly everything's brighter and easier, even if it's not that much tidier. So
Hmm.
strange.
Wow.
Make of that one what you will. But yeah.
Well, no, I think that it's kind of like there are some. It's a big thing these days to, and even now more so because everyone is at home so
Mm-hmm.
much. So many more people are at home, not everyone.
Well,
But being in your home, I think if you were, if when I was working out of the house, outside of the house, going to a corporate job, and I was there for 10 hours a day and then traveling back and forth. And so I didn't really get a lot of time at home. So, the kids were there, but we did our thing, we cleaned once a week or whatever, then did the laundry and everything, but it didn't
yeah.
really matter as much when you're here all the time.
Yeah,
It's a whole
that's
different ballgame.
when it
And I
starts to
think that
actually
use of
affect you.
elementals, it's a big deal on Netflix. There are shows like what is it, Marie
Yeah, Marie Kondo's
Kondo,
life-changing magic of tidying up. I think that one.
something. Does this
Something
make
on
me?
those
Does this
lines.
bring me joy? Does this bring me
Yeah,
joy? Does why
the
want
spark
this thing?
joy one.
I could go through half my house right now if I had this. So there's just so much stuff that you
Uh,
accumulate, and it's like I don't want to go through this right now. But
I
but
mean,
I'm bringing this up because I think it could make, even you've got the sales thing, but helping people with that right now could also be um, good timing and a big deal
yeah,
because it can
it's
be really aggravating. It's aggravating for me if I have clutter.
um, well, yeah, and the Marie Kondo method does not work for everybody. I have learned this the very
No,
hard way. I've started it
yeah,
like multiple times, and all that happens is I'll either get rid of nearly nothing, or, as has happened to my clothes on more occasions than I care to count, I will get rid of more stuff than I should and have like nothing. And be like,
nothing. Ah,
great, what am I meant to wear now? This was an exercise in futility. So it doesn't quite
yeah.
work in
Well, how
that
do
way.
the elementals work in your home and things like? How do they work in your home?
Okay, very briefly, I will explain how they work for me because I have a feeling that the exact way they map onto things is going to be different for everybody, but I've not tested that exhaustively yet. So, the way it works for me is the walls and floors are usually earth elemental stuff. So, like if you've got marks on your paintwork, which I did because I'm a 5-year-old, that can affect it, and like vacuuming as well, which is honestly the one I hate doing the most, but it's a thing. So that's usually earth elemental stuff. And then air elemental stuff for me is like windows, uh,
Huh.
curtains, windowsills, that type of thing, where you get sunlight in. Is just what made sense to me with that. Water for me is to do with like kitchen, bathroom, where there is running water, because I was apparently feeling very literal that day. And then, fire was an interesting one because it's like It's like your textiles, so your couches, your beds, clothing, and laundry stuff, and also the cooker, because again, quite literal.
Yeah.
That was fire. And then what was fascinating to me was the dark elemental stuff was straight up the clutter and the rubbish. If I had to take
Huh.
out recycling, for example, dark elemental, and they grumbled about it really loudly. But clutter especially, and things that you're holding on to that you probably shouldn't be holding on to, is that. And then light for me is decor. So like stuff actually
Mm.
on the walls, your ornaments, your color of things. Like it
Huh.
gets a lot more cheerful when I'm actually surrounded by objects I like versus just things. So
Just stuff. Yeah.
yeah, so that's like broadly how it works for me. But
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's easier than feng shui and a little
less
bit easier.
rules.
Yeah, less rules, less what? What was that? And I think that can be adaptable for anybody as opposed to something like the condo method, which you have to, do certain things a certain way and
Yeah.
make choices. Like you have to really take into consideration with that what time of day it is, how many choices you've already made.
The thing that I think works about it, at least for me, is that it is so open form, right? There's no
Yeah.
hiding from it. You can look around a room and go, well, which elementals are pissed at me? That one, that one, that one. And you just feel even a little bit. And they go, oh, okay, we're less mad now. It's fine. It's just funny how that works. But yeah, okay. So we've now been rambling on and might be boring for viewers over there. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before I wrap this up?
No, I just really appreciate what you're doing. I think there's a simplicity in it. It's not hugely complex. People can remember six things, and I
Yeah.
like that. It makes it, um, I guess, friendly to me. It
Yeah.
feels very friendly. You're friendly, and you're coming from a friendly place. I feel like, and it feels like so in my feeling place about it, it feels comfortable and not familiar, but something I could get familiar with
Yeah.
that could be useful. That's why I went into, and I hope you don't mind. I hope the audience doesn't mind that
It's fine.
I asked you to go into the home based thing because that is an area where I work and I've got a lot of stuff to look after. So sometimes the home doesn't get the attention it needs. And that's an area that's like, but I don't beat myself up over it too much anymore. But it's like, I'd like it to be like this. So now I know it actually gave me something that I can take with me.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that. I'm really appreciative
Well,
of that. I
that's
just like the
helpful.
work that you've done with it.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it was helpful.
Yeah.
If you are trying to apply the home stuff, what I would say is you sort of need to feel what each of the elementals is to you personally. Like they're pretty solid concepts, but how that will play out for you is maybe a little bit different. Because I know
Yeah.
that, like, here, for example, I have a lot of clutter type stuff. You can't see very much of it where I am right now, but I do. So it's a lot more skewed to dealing with that than it would be, say, if someone lived quite minimally and didn't have that, they would probably be
Right.
focusing on different things. But yeah, it's worth exploring if you find it at all helpful. So
Yeah, yeah, I do. And as far as sales goes, who doesn't want to be better at selling something and being persuasive when,
mhm.
and to me, I always like to include solid fairness and good ethics in that. And I think that these elementals can form into that space really well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm teaching sales itself, it has to be. ethical and feel right to you. Otherwise, it's not going
Right.
to happen. So I
Right.
feel like that's the baseline, honestly, for how
Yeah.
things work anyway.
Well, I guess that's why I brought it up, because it seems to be that kind of thing. I mean, you can't be nasty. You can't be pushy.
I
You
mean,
flow with the natural state of.
yeah, and at different times it'll look a little bit different. And depending on who you are, you're going to approach it differently. But it does very much have to come from that sort of place, or you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, some people do.
Yeah.
We can see what
Well,
it's like out there. Some people do manage it for a while, and it just boggles the mind. But
I know.
if
I
you're
know.
learning it properly, then no, that's not how any of this works. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a blast. I had a great time.
Yeah,
And it's like always good to see you. So,
I know. It was so good. It seems like it's been so long. I mean, your baby is already 5, for Pete's sake.
oh God, I know. He blinked
But
and he grew.
yeah, I think the last time we actually talked on video, he was still less than a year.
Really? God, that has been a
I
while.
think so. Yeah, I mean, it was a while ago. So it's really nice to connect. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the subject. I'm very excited for you. I think that you can really do a lot with this. I think it'll help a lot of people.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, viewer people, as always, if you want to find your own elemental, you can head on over to salesrpg.com where the free quiz is. And if you would like to come on the podcast yourself, the link for that is down in the description below. Until next time, have a wonderful week, and I will see you later.
Bye.